3-point lighting. As you can see, I am definitely overachieving on that. So I have a lot of lights in here, and we're just going to slowly add them in one at a time. Okay, I have my key light up and to the right, and it's about 45 degrees off to one side and about 45 degrees up. And it's a good place to start. You got to start somewhere. Obviously, you turn the light on, you look at what the results are, and then you make adjustments. But you got to start somewhere. This is where to start. So the key illumination, once again, is where the audience thinks the light is coming from. And then we have our fill light, which is basically shadow control. If you want deeper shadows, you have it with a lower value. And if you want more transparent or softer shadows, or just a hint of shadows, it has a higher value. So it really keeps your shadows in control. All right, over here we have my left rim light, and you can see where that guy is. Okay, he's just going to give me a rim or a hair light, okay, on the character or on my subject matter. And then I have a kicker light for kicking light in on the underside here, okay, from the back, and just giving me an outline. Right rim will do the same on this side. So as you see where that is relative to the head. Just turn on hardware shading there for you. And then we have the right kicker light down into the right side there. And then I have a bounce light underneath the key. See where the key is? And a left bounce light. And then I also have a background light just linked to the background. So this is where you start. All right. And now because I've lit this scene before, I have the lights pretty much placed where they need to be. You're going to have to figure out, is the light in the right position, and is it of the right intensity? So it's going to be a bit harder for you. Okay, so I have my camera view set up here, and you do light for the camera. All right, that's part of the trick here is you do it all for each camera, and this is the difference between a low budget project and a high budget project is how much lighting time do you have? Do you just do big banks of lights on either side of the set and have it illuminated, or do you reblock everything for every single shot? And that's really where your change in budget can be. So here I have my key light up and to the right. I have a nice spec highlight on this sculpture head. It was never designed to be a real human. Anyhow, I have some background light there. We have a nice silhouette of the edge against the background, so really pleased with that. And the key light, and don't really, I may tell you the numbers as I go through, I may not. The numbers aren't really that important. The important thing is the thought process that you pick up from me. Okay, the numbers are going to be different in every single scene. So now I've turned on depth map shadows on the key light, and as you can see, I have these nice cast shadows in under the nose, in the mouth, and the ear disappears. Okay, so yeah, so that's my key light. I'll now add in the fill light. So the fill light is to control the shadow. Oops, a little much there. And so I'll take that down a bunch. All right, then the numbers aren't important. You know, the numbers get you to the artistic result that you want to get. So I'm just going to slowly be goosing up these numbers. And it's a matter of control. And it's what's appropriate for your scene. So I'm getting, let's see, sort of doubling the numbers each time. Okay, I think that's a little too bright. We are getting some shadow there. Maybe that's what you want. But I think for our demonstration purposes, we should have slightly darker shadows than that. And so I'm also going to turn off the emit specular on that fill light. You know, in the real world, you would have to have specularity there. But this is one of the cheats that we get to have because we're fake. So my fill light, I've filled in the shadows. I've gotten them to a nice balance that I like for the scene I'm trying to do. Okay, and I've turned off the spec highlight because I like the results that it gives me. So now I'm going to go down to the rim light. And once again, remember our mantra for the class is light to reveal form. So as I crank up this rim light, there we go. So as you see, I'm now revealing the form of the model. And I happen to like for this, because I have a blue background, I like a blue fill. You know, it would work nicely on flesh if this was flesh. So it's technically should be granite, but okay. So as you see, the blue fill light there does a really nice job of revealing the form of the model, but it still reads as a shadow to the audience. They're not getting confused with it being the primary illumination, even though it is fairly bright. So I'm going to turn emit spec to off on that, and we'll just get rid of that little highlight there. And we'll just save that image. Let's re-render the image and save it. Okay, so that is my rim light, and there we have the basics of three-point lighting. We have the nice strong key light, we have the shadow, the fill light controlling the shadows, and then we have the rim light giving us a little bit more form and revealing the form of the model. Remember, we have the mid-tone here is where we find out the color information about the model. It's not over here in the fill light area, and it's not in the spec highlight area either. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just continue with the theme here of three-point lighting, but I'm going to keep adding lights. So I'm going to add a left kicker light in. Okay, and the kicker light does the same thing as the rim light, it's just down on the floor. So I always remember it by the fact that you accidentally can kick it. And so I'll also kill off the specular highlight on that. And as you see, it's really just nicely defining the form of the model there for me. And it's just adding light there. And so now I have a really nicely illuminated side of the head there. And it's not competing with the key light. We still see it as key, but we have all this nice reflective light bopping in for us. Okay, now you do notice the big problem here is I now have this blue spot in the mouth. We'll deal with that near the end, but I have noticed that. Okay, so now we're just going to start defining the right side of the face and really just sort of drawing a little nice outline around it so that it cleaves out from the background. And you know, this is an option. You know, all of these things are options, and it's what works well in your scene. The reason I like this light rig is because it makes me ask the questions. It reminds me to say, gee, should this thing have a left rim? And I can say yes or I can say no, but at least I've thought about it for a few moments, and that's the key thing to doing a nice piece of art. So as you see, I now have this nice edge going around. Okay, so we have a very nice little edge right along here outlining it. And once again, that's just making the whole thing feel round. All right, so then what I'll need to do is I'm just going to put in a little bit of kicker on that side as well. So, okay, yeah, all right, a little bit more. And the thing is about these kickers and rims, they can go extremely hot. It's a little much, admittedly, but yeah, we're not getting color information from them. Do you see it, though, how it gives us another shape here? Yeah, and maybe that's what you want to do. You see now how I have a very different shape defined, and it's very three-dimensional. So these are what your goals are. Okay? So once you have all that in place, then you can start doing the finishing. And of course, once again, I did not have to move my lights around much because I've lit this before, but that's not normal. Usually you're sketching, you're changing the intensity of the light, and you're moving the lights to get them so they have that glancing angle. And so I'm just going to turn on the eye light. And so I just have an eye light here, and it's just light linked to the eyeballs. And so I can turn that on, and as you see, we get this very nice, little highlight there in the eye. You may want to do something like make it into an area light. So if I just switch this to your basic area light, then it should give me a square highlight. And of course my decay is wrong there. Okay, so now I have a square highlight in the eyes. So it depends on what look you're trying to do. If you're doing studio lighting, you probably want to have a square highlight in there. Okay, now the mouth is still a problem. Now there's several ways to solve that. One is paint black into your diffuse of your texture. And so that's something I commonly do on my textures at the back of the mouth and in the noses and stuff. I'll put a black diffuse there and then gradate it out into the red of the mouth. And that works very, very well. Another thing that sometimes works, and it's for some reason it's been giving me problems in this file, but we can also toss in a negative light. So I could just do a negative number there and just pull light out of the inside of the mouth. There it is. So that's just a negative light subtracting out. More on that in another week. So turning off the neg light for a moment. So, all right, the technical right way to solve it, which is the expensive way, render time wise, is just to turn on depth map shadows, since I'm using depth map shadows in this scene, to on all of the lights. And then I, of course, won't have this issue. So just save that last one there. And so as you see, with depth map shadows on all of my lights, I do not have that little artifact in there. Okay, but I'm calculating a lot more shadows, and shadows are super expensive. I also get this little shadow in here, and so I'm not really happy with that artistically. I like having it, a deep spot over in this part, but this it's going onto the eye. It's getting a little noisy there. It's not very good. So not happy about that. And it also just really takes up my render times on everything. So that's 3-point lighting with a lot of overachieving happening. So, but this is where you start, and then you modify it, you look at your model, and you reveal the form of the model is your goal.